This cufflinks of one. This is a watch from one. So
You are a walking advertisement for your clients, dude.
I'm like a walking NASCAR, baby.
You know what? Look, I mean, hey everyone, I'm Jim Gass, and welcome to No Law Firm Left Behind. This is my good friend Brian Redden. Brian, say hi.
Hi, everybody.
We're just chatting it up. Brian and I, Brian, the cartridge factory, that the brewing company, they're like 5 minutes away from my house, right? So
I'm
one
jealous.
of your clients.
I wish I was that close.
I've been there. I run past when the trail's open. It's down now after the construction of the new bridge. But I run past it all the time. It's packed all the time. You know,
it is.
So
great location. I mean, one of the things we a lot in the summer, my wife and I will start at Loveland, and you know we fool ourselves like we're going to go get a good workout. We're going to go bike up from Loveland to the cartridge factory to Cartridge Brewing. And then we get there and we have 2 beers and we've undone all the good we've done getting from Loveland to there. And
they're evil. These people are evil. They're evil for exercise.
But it's a good justification. Like I can rationalize. I mean, I'm a lawyer, right? So I got to rationalize my bad habits. So I figure if I bike there, it cancels out the beer and the food that I have.
My buddy, one of my old buddies said, we run half marathons, and he said his favorite thing about running a half marathon is the fact you can eat anything and as much as you want after the half marathon.
That's right.
So many
calories. That's right.
Well, listen, let's get to it, Brian. We're gonna have you on the chat on. If you're not from Cincinnati, some of that stuff didn't make sense. If you're from the Cincinnati area, Brian's an awesome attorney downtown in Cincinnati. Brian, I don't want to introduce you. I just think it's a better thing for you to talk about your firm because I'll butcher it, So tell everybody a little bit about your firm. Tell them what you do.
Absolutely. So I am shareholder, COO, member of the executive committee at Beekner, Haffer, Myers, and Koenig, which we have branded over the last few years because that's a lot of names that in true Cincinnati style, lots of German names in there. So it's easier for people. That's right. It's easier for people to remember BHMK Law. So we are a 22 lawyer firm, particularly focused on the needs of entrepreneurs, small business owners, family business owners, owners and operators, trying to help them at every phase of their existence, from startup all the way through succession planning at all points in between, and trying to help them establish, grow, succeed, protect, and then figure out where they move on to after that. And we're lucky that we've got a really excellent, experienced, multidisciplinary team of lawyers that have experience, upwards of 40 plus years. The 2 people who founded this firm in 1979 are still here. They are still active. They are still working with clients. God bless them. And, they bring all that experience to allow guys or folks who are mid-career like me to leverage their experience, but at the same time, leverage younger people that we're bringing along and sharing, the issues we faced and to help bring them along to allow us to do it cost efficiently, cost effectively, and get good results for clients, just like from when Bob and Gloria started this thing in 1979. And next year will be, hard to believe, our 45th year. So we're going to keep this thing going and keep doing good work for great clients. And we're really privileged to be in the space we are.
And you know what? It's a very prestigious firm. Brian, I love having you on the show.
I appreciate you having me
every time. And so, you know what they say about all attorneys, they never die, right? They just ask for continuances.
There you go. There you go. Well, I'll keep my fingers crossed that that's the case.
So look, we're going to get right into it, man. Every time I talk to you, you just exude this passion for what you do. Okay.
Thank you.
And that's tough. I mean, you have to have that in the world today. You're in the chair that you're in because of that passion. And so tell us a little bit about that passion, why it's there, where it comes from, and how you got it.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you recognizing that, and not to not to push back, but I'm going to push back on one part of it, is that it's tough to have that. If you love what you're doing and you're excited about it and you feel like you're making a difference for your clients, I don't think it is tough to have that. I mean, and I'll say this, that's something that I've learned probably here, I'd say in the second half of my career. I guess I'm 20, going on 25 years in, which is really hard to believe. But, early on in my career, maybe the first decade or so, I probably didn't get that. I was just doing it because, well, this is what lawyers do. You get up, you go fight. Because I was a litigation guy almost exclusively for the first 10 years or so of my career. And you just like, okay, we're doing this again. Certainly in the time that I've been here, 13 plus years, that has really changed. And, I mean, part of the secret sauce, I think, that makes us special in a lot of ways, has helped me realize, like, you can really make a difference for clients who are trying to make our community better, trying to make our world better, trying to fill niches in different spaces. And when you're trying to help people build something that they feel is special and they've got passion about, that's contagious. And for me, it's like, hey, I'm helping someone else live out their dream. And to me, that's a privilege. That's something that should energize me, should energize the people that we work with here, that are part of our team, all the way from our receptionist to our staff, to our paralegals, to our office manager, to our most senior people. If you're not excited about what you're doing and you don't get energized by clients that are excited about their new business or their business and the fact that they're passing it on to their children, or they're having a really impressive life-changing liquidity event, then I can't instill that in you. Mm-hmm. You've just got to get excited about that scenario and be excited that, hey, I'm helping somebody else live out their dream. And the privilege that comes with that is we're going to do it the best that we're able with our abilities.
Yeah. It makes the hard times worth it.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Jim, we were talking before we went on the air. Yesterday was my first day back after a 10-day vacation. And I was talking to another friend this morning by phone. And I think I've found that that's like the sweet spot for vacation time.
Yeah.
Because 7 isn't quite enough to really like decompress and just get relaxed. And then I've done a couple of 14-day vacations, especially when you go to Europe, right? It's hard to do it in less than that time frame. But you then that like nagging, like, yeah, but what about this? What about this? You got other stuff, and you're like, oh my God, 10 days was like the perfect time frame. And so often, and I'm sure other people have experienced, you come back from vacation, people are like, hey, are you all rested? Do you feel all good? And honestly, I think this might have been one of the first times that I can remember that I was like, yeah, I am. And I feel good, and I'm excited to get back at it and, keep trying to do good stuff for clients.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, here we are, man. We're safely out of COVID, right? I think everybody's agrees, for the
fingers crossed,
part, right? You're right. Knock on some wood somewhere.
Well,
right?
The president and the EEOC say so.
Yeah,
so
right. Not everywhere is agreeing all 100%, but
right.
I get you. The emergency is over, right? And granted, I lost my mom to COVID, so it was a valid emergency.
Yeah.
Lots changed, man. A lot's changed.
Huge.
Businesses and people have reevaluated so much. And I love what you said about, people, are looking at their lives saying, I want to stop making everybody else rich, right? And go do something for myself. What's different about post-COVID startups, Help us out.
I think first of all, the way that they get started, and I think the passion that people have, there was always this great fear that I think permeated a lot of people in general that like, oh my gosh, if I lost my job, what about this? If what impact will that have on my family, and what impact will that have on my existence? And all of a sudden we had this record scratch event with
Wow,
COVID.
what a way to call it.
Right. I mean, that, and it's funny. I was messaging with a guy that I interact with on a lot of employment law issues on LinkedIn. John Hyman, great employment lawyer out of Northern Ohio, very involved in craft brew, and we've got a lot of similar interests. And he had posted about the EEOC's post, what they call their post-COVID guidelines that came out yesterday. And there's a lot of online discussion about what those look like and what those mean. But we were talking about that, and that got me thinking about how often, I mean, at this point, like I said, I'd been gone for 10 days. I think I had 2 calls yesterday with new clients looking at doing business startups. And these were people who had lost jobs during COVID, went back to their employer, because they were furloughed or they were laid off, and then they were brought back. And, it sunk in with them, and both of them independently, they don't know each other. It's the first time I've talked to them, made this comment that, like next week, the company could just kick me to the curb. Yeah. And it's on me to take care of my family, my responsibilities. And I would rather do it on my own juice than depend on somebody else to make sure that I've got a living and I've got the ability to provide. And I respect that, because essentially that's what most lawyers, and I don't care whether you're in a 22 lawyer firm, a 2 lawyer firm, or a 2,000 lawyer firm, effectively you are your own business. And Jim, I know you preach this all the time, because I watch your streams. I listen.
You're the one.
What's that?
You're the one.
Yeah. And people have got to understand that whether you're in a big firm, a small firm, you're a solo, you're an independent, like, you are your own brand, you are your own business unto yourself. And what are you doing to differentiate yourself? What are you doing to offer value to people beyond just the fact that, hey, I can do documents for you, or I can represent you in court? Because there better be more than that. Because if that's all you offer is, I went to a good law school and I'm smart and I've handled this issue before, that isn't enough in today's world. So, for these folks, I think the mindset is, I'm going to stand on my own 2 feet. I'm going to build my own thing rather than building it for somebody else. And I guess maybe I came to that a decade or a decade plus ago and said, okay, I'm going to, that's the path that I'm going to go, because I saw people in my own family do that successfully, stand on their own 2 feet, get out on, I call it getting out on that limb. But I think now that limb is a little, at least mentally and emotionally, thicker because of the COVID experience a lot of people had, which was, hey, I lost that job, or I got laid off for a period of time. And you know what? We survived.
I was an Uber driver. I delivered DoorDash. I did whatever it took.
Did what I had to do.
That. Man.
Yeah. And people adapted to it. And so that fear of that experience helped reduce that fear of going out on that limb, making that bet on yourself. And I think that's why we're seeing a lot more people go down that road, to say, no, I want to choose this as a lifestyle, and I want to be my own boss and decide, what my work-life balance looks like. And I'm going to decide when I'm going to make income versus somebody else telling me this is what you get.
Yeah. We all have our own origin stories. I told mine 1,000 times, and today's not about me, but I'll share it. I was a chemist. I could have been a great chemist. I was working with some of the best in the industry. Cincinnati is known for flavors, by the way, and that's where I was. Right. And so I was at the top of the top. I'm working with the top of the top. And I didn't want to be a 6 to 9 dad. I wanted my control. I wanted to be the kind of dad I wanted to be. And I don't knock anybody for what they have to do. They got to do what they got to do. And,
that's
it
right.
is what it is. but your origin story and your reason for doing that, is really important. And the fact that all these people had this fear of the unknown, the first time you ride a roller coaster as a kid, you're afraid, but the next time you're not so afraid, are you?
Right. And then by the 200th time you ride the beast, you're like, man, I love the fact that it throws me around and does it, right? I mean, yeah. And you come to expect it. You're like, yeah, I know there's going to be bumps. I know there's going to be bruises. I know there's going to be times when things are rough or difficult, but that's part of the journey.
Yeah, it is. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, for sure. So here's the thing. You guys have this secret sauce, right? Everybody's got their secret sauce, whether we call it secret sauce or not, whether we advertise we've got it. We feel like we've got this secret sauce, a secret recipe on how we do things, right? And so what would you say that, to potential clients, right? And today's about potential clients as well as much as it is other, law firms that want to do as well as you do. And we got to prop up the community. It's important to prop up the community too, right?
Sure.
So, what do you feel that you have more right in that secret sauce, that secret weapon, on helping post-COVID startups and just startups and businesses in general?
Yeah. I think number one is the experiential aspect of a really remarkable team that we have here. Like I mentioned, you talk about going out on a limb. Maybe I'm only speaking to half or so of the potential viewers in the community, but I think I was in grade school, certainly in grade school at this point, but 1979 when this firm was founded, the United States was in some of the worst economic times since the Great Depression. And, and people talk about how bad it is today. And admittedly, I think the economy isn't great, but it's certainly not what it was. And it's worlds better than it was in 1979.
With 8%, 12% and more higher interest rates on
probably
mortgages?
Yeah, probably more, probably high double digits, depending on what sort of thing you were purchasing at the time.
Yeah.
And despite that, Bob and Gloria, who founded this firm, they went out on that limb and created a business to service business owners and entrepreneurs and family businesses and do it in a certain way. And to their credit, from the two of them and one of the other folks that was with him at the time, Bob Myers came here shortly after that in year 2 or 3. And those three are still here for 44 years into that experiment. So when you look at that in terms of what's in our cultural DNA as a firm, we've been there, we've done that. You've had the startup struggles, the finding office space struggles, the finding employee struggles, the finding qualified other attorneys or staff people and personnel, right? You can't ignore personnel in any business is a huge, huge expense, but at the same time, also a huge asset and probably your most important asset and your most significant expense. And you got to make sure that you've got the right asset for what you're spending on that. And they made good choices in the time before David Burley and Brian Hirsch and myself became the executive committee of the firm a few years ago to try to take us to another level. So we've been through those life cycles and those challenges. And, yes, we're a professional services firm, we're a law firm. We're not doing sandwiches, we're not doing beer, we're not building watches.
We're not charging for it, at least, right?
We're a different type, but we've been there, we've done that. And then we've helped other people through the process over and over and over and over. So experientially, there's a huge library of knowledge and experience that, a lot of firms who are interested in helping this market just can't leverage or maybe don't quite understand.
Yeah.
So I think that's part one. Part two is we've taken a multidisciplinary approach. You've got your litigator, employment lawyer guy. You've got your limited liability company, corporate transactional experts. You've got your tax planning experts, you've got your real estate experts, you've got your tax planning people all the way through. And I think, and I've heard this so often from clients, that they really appreciate the fact that they may call me with an issue and I'll say, hey, hang on a second, let me go grab so-and-so. You've got a real estate question. Hang on, let me grab Steve Hofsis. He's right down the hall. Give me 30 seconds. We'll be right back. Boom. And bring Steve into that. Or, you've got a complicated tax issue and you're talking about maybe doing a reorganization. Okay, let me grab Brian Hirsch, or let me grab Bob Beekner and bring those guys into the conversation. And we don't have to send them out to someone else to get that. That doesn't mean you don't rely on other trusted advisors, right? CPAs and bankers. And I love working with those folks because I think that only helps us serve the client better. But to be able to have that level of experience and expertise and knowledge under one roof, I think is if you call it secret sauce, I'm happy to go with that, because that's I think that's a good way of putting it. It's a special mix of people and circumstances and knowledge and experience that we've just been damn lucky to accumulate, and hopefully we just keep applying it to help other people be successful.
Yeah. You're a firm that's not so small that you don't have a great bench, a wide bench, but you're not so big that it's too hard to go tap into that bench.
Right.
Like you said, just walk down the hall and grab somebody.
Right. Right. And that's really special. And I hope we never lose that.
Yeah.
Again, you talk about COVID impacts. We were out of the office for about 10 to 12 weeks. It was as long as we were out. And again, I know you went through terrible experiences during COVID. Those were some dark days, and it was, for us, it was important to get our people back in the office, and be available and be here for clients. Now, I'll say this. During the months of March and April and into May of 2020, I don't know that I ever worked harder than that, because clients had so many things. And again, when you're working with small businesses and family businesses and startups, like those were incredibly tough times for those businesses. And they were just days where it was hours and hours and hours doing calls and discussions like this over Teams and Zoom. And I'll probably never forget. I remember there was one night that we were sitting at dinner because all our kids were home. We had 2 in college. One had just graduated from her master's program like a month before COVID hit Europe. And she did her master's program in Scotland and had come back home. So we had all the kids home, and I remember sitting at dinner one night, and it's like, all I had dealt with was reduction in forces and terminations and furloughs. I was like, I feel like the Grim Reaper. All I'm doing is having discussions with people about people losing jobs and all that. And I couldn't wait to get back to the office, because I get so much energy, and I think so many of our team does, which is maybe another unique aspect of being in here, being collaborative, talking with people, and being, in the mix together to get stuff done. And that kind of isolationist aspect of COVID was probably one of the biggest challenges that I think I faced personally. Was, even though I was home with my family, who I love dearly and is the biggest reason I do what I do, but to get into the office and be with our team and be like, okay, we're going to have some normalcy. We're going to get back, and this thing's going to turn around. And, knock on wood, it has. And I think we're all bigger, better, stronger for it as a result.
You bet. Well, let's get to some happy, exciting stuff. Not that that's not, but let's get some stuff and people can really dig. I love stories, right? Just think stories just really are the creative juices of the universe, right? Tell us some success stories. Tell us about, look, I want to hear about your brother's store, how it's doing, to kind of rekindle that a little bit. I want to hear about Cartridge Brewing and how the life of that, took its own course, right? Tell us a little bit about these stories, if you will. And just not that I worry about time, I don't worry about time.
That's right. Time is just a construct, right?
That
there's only 36 billable hours in a day, so we're fine. I'm kidding. Bar examiners, Ohio Supreme Court. I'm joking. That's a joke. I joke. I kid. No, listen. And this was, you talk about a kind of a post-COVID thing too. I mean, and this is near and dear to my heart because it's in my community. It's my home. It's my brother. It's family. Is my brother's meat and seafood store, deli in Madeira, the old train station in Madeira. I mean, I've lived essentially in Madeira on and off since 1987 when my parents bought a house there, and my brother and I moved with them. And it's just such a great, fun little community. Very tight-knit, very close community. And and my brother graduated from Madeira High School as well. So he's really ingrained in the community. And this opportunity came up for him a couple of years ago. And he had again, been working corporately and had always wanted to kind of do his own thing. And to his credit, he went out on that limb. And yeah, I mean, it was in the middle of COVID. Like, I think this is what I want to do, and how do we make this happen? And it was like, okay. And with a group of friends, family, got the thing off the ground and started. And honestly, Jim, it's going great. It's become, I think, he's been open now going on 2 years. Next month will be 2 years, that's a huge roadblock, right? If you're a startup business getting off the ground, if you can get to 2 years, you're going the right direction. Yeah. But top-notch meat, seafood, deli sandwiches, has a small market component to that, but structuring the limited liability company, helping with the investment components in that, because at that point, the SBA, they were focused on EIDL, they were focused on Paycheck Protection Act. They were focused on all that stuff. They weren't focused on, trying to help new businesses get started. So that wasn't going to be an option. So we had to pivot, and you've got to be adaptable, and you've got to figure out, okay, plan A isn't going to work. How do we go to plan B, and what does plan B look like, and how do we make that work? So went through that. And then once he got started and up and running, listen, I don't know about you. It's probably slightly obvious. Like, I love my food, right? I love a good steak. I love a great piece of salmon. I love some nice scallops. But, when I go into a place like that and I'm picking up, a couple of strips and a couple of fillets, like, I want a nice bottle of wine to go with it. If I'm picking up my hamburgers that I'm going to throw on the grill, I want a nice 6-pack of beer to go with it. So, okay, well, now I had to leverage other people at the firm to say, we need to find a liquor license. We need to acquire the liquor license. And what does that look like? And what is that going to be? So to get the beer and the ability to do the beer and wine carry out. And we were able to make that happen. So, going through the progression of those steps, again, from the very beginning of the thing all the way through to where he is today. And, I'll be out somewhere wearing a hat or a T-shirt from the shop, and somebody will say something, or I'm at a bar association event or social event, and somebody is like, man, I was just in the shop, and boy, we got the best roast for Christmas, or the best, Thanksgiving turkey. And it's gratifying to hear that other people enjoy something that, I'm personally invested in, financial or familially, it's a hard word to say, invested in, and that we helped get off the ground by applying what we do professionally to it. That's really exciting, and it's really gratifying. And that's exactly where we kind of want to fill those spaces again, is to help people realize that. You mentioned Cartridge Brewing. That was another one. I love the location. It's such a cool spot. For people who live in that section of northern Cincinnati, my wife and kids and I, we lived in the King School District for several years and had some relationships with the guys that were through other social and business connections that they wanted to start this brewery, and they had the opportunity to do it at the old powder factory. I thought, what a cool location.
Awesome.
Right? It's just such an awesome location right there on
and
the
haunted, but that's okay.
What's that?
And haunted, but that's okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the stories of the ghosts and the hauntings of the Peters cartridge factory and all that. I mean, just such a cool story and a cool location. And I went back and looked. I think we had the first meeting. It was almost 4 years to the day from the time we had the first meeting about getting that thing off the ground until it opened in October of 2020. And what a time to open a business, to open a brewery with food service. I mean, still, 7 months into COVID, like, what are you guys thinking? But it was such a great concept. And frankly, they do really good beer and they were doing really good food. And I think just filled a niche in that area of town that really nobody was hitting. I mean, you had a few kind of around the other side of Mason and maybe a little south, but that space in a great location right on the bike trail, and to be able to be part of that from kind of the ground up all the way through to where they are now has been incredibly instructive. I mean, we've done a number of kind of local breweries, but that was the one that I was most involved with and had the most direct contact with. And I mentioned I'd been down in Florida, and my main beach hat was like their Founders Club beach hat, just because I love it, because it's like a shadowed out picture of the factory that's so distinctive with like the sunset behind it. And people see that hat and they're like, wow, that's a really cool, really distinctive hat.
Yeah.
And it is. And then you get to share the story about what Cartridge did and how it utilized that incredible landmark, haunted landmark. And it's fun. And you go visit the place and it's good beer and it's good food in a cool spot. It's fun to be associated with things like that, and to help those folks, again, live out their dream and realize that, like, hey, we can build something and we can build something great, even if it's just in Madeira or in Kings and Mason. That's okay, because they're making a difference there for people in the community.
I often think to myself, if I had it to do all over again, I started this business and you don't think about it. You think about what you want to do and you kind of jump ship and just go do it, right? Then you get later on in life, and I'm 53 now, or now I'm 54. Oh, wow. Jeez. I have to remind myself, 54 now. And I wondered to myself if I would have done anything different. The one thing I always wonder is, would I have actually created anything? What did I create is the question. And yeah, you can always say, well, I created jobs for people, that's one thing. I always kind of regret not creating anything. But as I talk to you, Brian, you're really making me feel very good about what we've done. We've helped other businesses and other people meet their dreams. That's creation. Right. That's incredible.
It is. I mean, listen, everybody plays a role. Yeah. Like I mentioned, I love working with good CPAs and good bankers and good marketing people and good tech people, right? I mean, it takes all of us kind of filling our role and filling a niche to do something, to build great opportunities, right? I mean, listen, my days of helping to make a sandwich, you don't want me making your sandwich.
I actually think I might want you to.
Well, I'll bring my brother in, and it'll be a hell of a lot better than I could do. I can still cook a pretty decent steak. I can still cook a pretty decent piece of fish. But again, a lot of that has had to go with just being around him and learning how to do it the right way. I certainly can't brew beer. I can't distill Irish whiskey, but I can certainly pick out a good one and tell you what to buy. But at the end of the day, it each of us has different skills, different abilities. That goes for our firm. That goes for, I think, any successful business. And it's the entrepreneurial trap I do see a lot of entrepreneurs get into, is because so many of us, and I'll put myself in this category, we're self-starters. We fall into the trap of, well, I'll just do it myself. Doesn't work. You're not going to be successful that way.
Nope.
You might have some success, but it won't be a long-term lasting success, because there's only so much you can do. And to clear the record, there are only 24 hours in a day. You can only work so many hours at a time and be effective and successful. And you've got to leverage other people if you really want to have true, lasting, meaningful success.
Yeah.
I mean,
go ahead. Sorry.
Well, and I was going to say, I mean, it was so, I don't know if this was pre-broadcast or post, but I was saying that for me to be able to take a 10-day break, going to a beautiful place in Florida, spending time on the beach with my wife and playing pickleball and playing golf and just getting rejuvenated. If I was the only one doing everything around here, that would have never worked.
Nope.
So, I am very, very fortunate. It's not lost on me that I've got a great team around me, and the success that this place has had over the last 10 years in growth and helping businesses really succeed. That's only happened because we've been really fortunate to, have good people come in and add to the team and help make us better.
Yeah.
And I don't intend to see that stop. I mean, we're going to keep bringing in good people that want to help entrepreneurs and small businesses and family businesses do better, be better, exist better, and figure out where they're going to head, whether it's a sale or it's passing it on to the kids who are going to take it over, or, or to the grandchildren who are going to keep the thing going. Like that to me is such a special privilege for us to be able to be in that space and help people do that, it's incumbent on us to make sure we're doing it the best we can.
Brian, compelling. All of it's incredibly compelling. And I appreciate your time today. Unfortunately, we do got to wrap up, or I'd go on for another hour if I could with you. I just love interviewing you.
Brother, I'm Irish. I can talk all day long. So
tell people how to get to your website. Tell them your email address and a telephone number if you want.
Absolutely. Website, www.bhmklaw.com. Main number, 513-579-1500. And my email is bredden, so B as in Brian, REDDEN, @BHMKlaw. Happy to help anybody get off the ground or do it better than they're doing it today.
Look this guy up and give him a call. Listen, Brian,
thanks
again.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
All right, everyone. Listen, I give the old plugs about the group on LinkedIn. If you're not a member of the group on LinkedIn, if you're a lawyer and you want to be on No Law Firm Left Behind, join the group, please. It's a horrible URL. I always say that because LinkedIn hasn't changed it yet. I'll say it until they change it. So we get pretty URLs. But look for No Law Firm Left Behind on LinkedIn. If you're looking for our past shows, you can go to our website, splice.net/No Law Firm Left Behind. Can't get it out today for some reason. So again, thanks again, Brian. Sit tight.
You.
And everyone, we'll see you next week.
Take care.